The DNA test results sat on my kitchen counter like a loaded gun. Not the kind you order online out of curiosity. The kind that gets court-ordered when someone dies and leaves behind $3 million. My name is Tyler Bennett, and until 4 weeks ago, I thought I had a pretty good life. 15 years married to Jessica, 2 kids, Emma, 13, and Noah, 10. A comfortable house in suburban Ohio, and a career as an engineering consultant that kept us solidly upper middle class. We weren't rich, but we were stable. Happy, I thought. Then Jessica's uncle Robert died in a car accident in Arizona. Robert had been the family eccentric. Never married, made a fortune in commercial real estate, lived alone in Scottsdale. Jessica had always been his favorite niece. She'd visit him twice a year, sometimes bringing the kids, sometimes going solo. I'd met him maybe 3 times in 15 years. Nice enough guy, kept to himself mostly. When his attorney called to say Jessica was the primary beneficiary of his estate, we were stunned. $3.2 million plus a property in Scottsdale worth another $800,000. Jessica cried. Happy tears, she said. Her uncle had always told her she reminded him of his late sister, Jessica's mother, who died when Jessica was 19. The money would change everything. We could pay off the mortgage, fund the kids' college completely, maybe even retire early. We held each other that night, talking about possibilities until 2 in the morning. Then came the paperwork. Robert's will had been updated 6 months before his death. His attorney, a sharp woman named Patricia Wolfe, explained during our first call that Robert had included specific provisions. The estate would be divided among his bloodline relatives, with Jessica receiving the lion's share as his closest living blood relative. There's a standard verification clause, Patricia explained over speakerphone, while Jessica and I sat in our home office. In estates of this size, particularly in Arizona, it's become common practice to confirm biological relationships before distribution. It protects against fraud claims from other potential heirs. Other heirs? Jessica asked. I thought I was the only one. You are, according to our records. But Robert's estate plan requires genetic verification for any beneficiary claiming relationship through his sister, your mother. It's a formality, really. We'll send testing kits for you and your children. Since Robert's DNA is on file with the medical examiner's office, we can cross-reference. Why the kids? I asked. They're listed as contingent beneficiaries should anything happen to Mrs. Bennett. The will establishes a trust for them regardless. Again, standard procedure for estates exceeding $2 million. We received the kits 3 days later. Simple cheek swabs. Emma and Noah thought it was cool, like something from a crime show. We sent them back priority mail. That was 3 weeks ago. This morning, Patricia Wolfe called my cell phone directly. Not Jessica's. Mine. Mr. Bennett, I need you to come to my office, alone. I don't understand. Is there a problem with the estate? There's a situation that's developed. I can't discuss it over the phone. Can you be here tomorrow? I'm aware it's a flight from Ohio, but this is time sensitive. Something in her voice made my stomach drop. What about Jessica? Just you for now. Please don't discuss this call with your wife yet. I took a red-eye that night, telling Jessica I had an emergency client meeting in Phoenix. She barely looked up from her laptop when I kissed her goodbye. Patricia's office occupied the top floor of a glass building in downtown Scottsdale. She was in her 50s, gray hair pulled back, with the kind of direct gaze that probably served her well in probate court. She didn't waste time with pleasantries. The DNA results came back with discrepancies, she said, sliding a folder across her desk. Jessica is confirmed as Robert's biological niece. That's not the issue. I opened the folder. Pages of genetic analysis I couldn't fully understand, highlighted sections, percentages, markers. The issue is your children, Patricia continued. Emma and Noah share genetic material with Jessica, obviously. But the analysis revealed something else. When we cross-referenced their profiles against Robert's familial DNA, she paused, and I watched her choose her words carefully. Noah shows the expected genetic relationship to Robert through Jessica. Emma does not. The words didn't make sense at first. I read them again in the report. What does that mean? It means Emma is not biologically related to Robert's family line, which means she's not Jessica's biological daughter. The room tilted. That's impossible. I was there when she was born. Jessica was pregnant, I saw. I'm sure you did. But genetics don't lie, Mr. Bennett. Emma shares no DNA markers with Robert's family. However, Patricia pulled out another page. Emma does share approximately 50% of her genetic material with you. She's your biological daughter. My mouth went dry. Then who? That's not a question I can answer. What I can tell you is that Emma is your biological child, but not Jessica's, which means at some point, either through surrogacy, adoption, or… She let the sentence hang. I thought about Emma. Her blonde hair, nothing like Jessica's dark brown or my light brown. Her green eyes, I'd always assumed she got them from Jessica's side. The way she looked nothing like Noah, who was practically Jessica's clone. There's more, Patricia said quietly. I'm required by Arizona law to report these findings to the appropriate authorities when they involve potential fraud in estate claims. But before I do that, I wanted you to understand the full situation, because there's another discrepancy. She pulled out a third document. Noah's DNA shows he is related to Robert's family line through Jessica. But the paternal markers don't match yours, Mr. Bennett. Noah is not your biological son. The office went silent except for the air conditioning humming through the vents. I've arranged for a more comprehensive paternity test using your DNA sample, Patricia said. The results came this morning. She handed me the paper. Emma. 99.9% probability of paternity. Noah. 0% probability of paternity. I stared at the words until they blurred. The DNA results sat between us like evidence at a crime scene. Patricia had given me copies of everything. Lab reports, genetic markers, probability percentages that destroyed my understanding of reality. I need to make a call, I said, standing up so fast the chair scraped against the floor. Patricia nodded. Take your time, I'll be here. I walked out into the hallway, past the reception area, into a men's room that smelled like industrial cleaner. My hands shook as I pulled out my phone. I needed to hear Jessica's voice. Needed to know if she'd sound different now that I knew. The call went to voicemail. Her cheerful, recorded greeting felt like mockery. Call me back, I said. Now. I splashed water on my face, stared at myself in the mirror. Same guy who'd boarded a plane this morning. Different life entirely. When I returned to Patricia's office, she had a yellow legal pad in front of her, pen ready. We need to discuss next steps, she said. The estate is in limbo until we resolve this. Resolve what? My wife had someone else's baby, and somehow I'm raising my daughter who isn't hers? How do you resolve that? The DNA testing was ordered by the court as a condition of inheritance. These results will be part of the probate record. That's public information, Tyler. The implication hit me. Jessica will find out. When she inquires about the delay in estate distribution, yes. Or when her attorney requests documentation. Patricia leaned forward. You have maybe a week before this becomes unavoidable. My phone buzzed. Jessica, finally calling back. I answered. Where are you? Work. What's wrong? You sounded… I'm still in Arizona, with the estate attorney. A pause. Is there a problem with the inheritance? The word inheritance coming out of her mouth made my jaw clench. Yeah, you could say that. What kind of problem? I looked at Patricia, who was watching me with professional concern. The kind we need to discuss in person. I'll be home tonight. Tyler, you're scaring me. Good, I said, and ended the call. Patricia made a note on her pad. What's your plan? I don't have one. I found out my life is a lie about 45 minutes ago. Let me be direct. If you want answers, you need to approach this strategically. Jessica will be defensive. She may have explanations you haven't considered. Like what? What explanation makes this okay? I'm not saying it's okay. I'm saying there might be context you don't have. She tapped her pen against the pad. Surrogacy, adoption, medical procedures you weren't fully informed about, fertility clinic errors. For both kids, in opposite directions? I agree it's unlikely, but you need to know what you're dealing with before you make decisions that can't be undone. I thought about that. About confronting Jessica tonight with nothing but rage and confusion. About what that would do to Emma and Noah, who were at the center of this whether they knew it or not. What would you do? I asked. Patricia set down her pen. I'd gather information first, quietly. Medical records, fertility clinic documentation if applicable, hospital records from both births, credit card statements from 13 and 10 years ago, phone records if you can access them. Build a timeline before you confront her. That sounds like I'm investigating my own wife. You are, because right now, you don't know who she is. The flight home was 6 hours of hell. I couldn't read, couldn't focus on the movie playing on the seatback screen. Just kept staring at the DNA reports, reading the same impossible conclusions over and over. Emma. 99-97% probability of paternity with Tyler Bennett. 0% probability of maternity with Jessica Bennett. Noah. 0% probability of paternity with Tyler Bennett. 99.199% probability of maternity with Jessica Bennett. I'd been in the delivery room for both births. Watched Emma come into the world after 18 hours of labor. Watched Noah arrive 3 years later, faster and easier. Jessica had been pregnant both times. I'd seen the ultrasounds, felt them kick, attended every appointment. How do you fake that? By the time we landed in New York, I'd made a decision. Patricia was right. I needed information before confrontation. I took a cab home instead of having Jessica pick me up. Told her I'd grabbed a ride with a colleague. The house was lit up when I arrived, warm and familiar. Emma's bike on the front lawn. Noah's soccer ball by the garage. Jessica met me at the door. You okay? You've been weird all day. I kissed her cheek, tasted my own betrayal in the gesture. Long day. Estate stuff is complicated. But the money's coming through? There it was again. The inheritance. Her uncle's fortune that had triggered this DNA requirement, that had blown up everything. Eventually, I said, there's paperwork to sort through. Emma was doing homework at the kitchen table. Noah was playing a video game in the den. Normal Tuesday evening. Except I was looking at them differently now, cataloging features. Emma had my nose, my jawline. Where did her green eyes come from? Noah was all Jessica, her dark hair, her build, her expressions. How was school? I asked Emma. She shrugged without looking up. Fine. 13 years old, monosyllabic and distant, like most teenagers. But she was mine. Biologically, genetically, undeniably mine. Just not Jessica's. I went upstairs to our bedroom, closed the door, opened my laptop. Started with the basics, our joint bank accounts, credit card statements. I had access to everything. We'd always been transparent about finances. I searched for charges from 13 years ago around Emma's birth. Hospital, Mount Sinai. Doctor. Dr. Rachel Brennan, OB/GYN. All normal, all documented. Jessica's prenatal vitamins from the pharmacy. Maternity clothes from Target. Then I searched for fertility clinic charges. Nothing. No IVF, no surrogacy agencies, no genetic testing services before Emma's birth. I moved to 10 years ago, Noah's birth. Same hospital, same doctor. Same pattern of normal pregnancy expenses. My phone buzzed. A text from Patricia. Thought you should know. Jessica's attorney contacted my office an hour ago requesting status update on estate distribution. Clock is ticking. I stared at that message. Jessica had lawyered up already, pushing for her money. She didn't know what the delay was, but she was applying pressure. Another text from Patricia. Also found something in Robert's papers. He updated his will 6 months ago, added the DNA requirement. Before that, Jessica was set to inherit with no genetic verification. He changed it deliberately. I typed back, why? Don't know, but he knew something. Or suspected. Robert. The family eccentric who'd barely spoken to anyone for years. Who'd left millions to his niece, but only if she could prove blood relation. Had he known? Had he discovered something about Jessica? About the kids? I heard footsteps on the stairs. Jessica appeared in the doorway. You've been up here an hour, she said. Dinner's ready. Not hungry. She came into the room, closed the door behind her. What's really going on? And don't say estate paperwork. I closed the laptop. Looked at her. This woman I'd been married to for 15 years, who'd shared my bed and my life and apparently secrets that redefined everything. The inheritance requires DNA verification, I said. Blood relatives only. Her face didn't change. Okay, so? So they tested all of us. Me, you, Emma, Noah. Now something flickered in her expression. Brief, quickly controlled. And? This was it. The moment where I either played strategic or went nuclear. Patricia's advice versus my burning need to know. And there's complications, I said, watching her carefully. Genetic complications. What does that mean? It means the lab found discrepancies, things that don't add up. Jessica's hand went to her throat, a gesture I'd seen 1,000 times when she was nervous. What kind of discrepancies? The kind that delay estate distribution until they're resolved. I stood up. The kind that require explanation. Tyler, you're talking in circles. Just tell me what's wrong. You tell me, I said. You tell me what happened 13 years ago when Emma was born. You tell me what happened 10 years ago with Noah. You tell me why your uncle changed his will 6 months before he died to require DNA testing. The color drained from her face. I don't know what you're talking about. Yes, you do. She backed toward the door. The tests are wrong. Labs make mistakes all the time. Not like this. Not these kinds of mistakes. What did they say? Exactly? I pulled up the PDF on my phone, handed it to her. Watched her read. Watched her face cycle through confusion, shock, understanding, fear. This is impossible, she whispered. That's what I said. But the lab stands behind it. 99.9% certain. Jessica sat down on the bed, still staring at the screen. Emma's not, and Noah isn't. Keep reading. She scrolled down, saw the second set of results. Her hand started shaking. How? That's my question. How, Jessica? How is Emma my daughter but not yours? How is Noah your son but not mine? She looked up at me, and I saw something I'd never seen before in her eyes. Absolute terror. The silence stretched between us like a chasm. Jessica sat frozen at the kitchen table, her face drained of color, staring at the DNA results I'd spread across the surface. Her hands trembled against the wood. I need to know what happened, I said, keeping my voice level. Both times. She opened her mouth, closed it. Her eyes darted to the hallway where the kids' rooms were, then back to me. Tyler, The truth, Jessica. Whatever it is, I need to hear it. She stood abruptly, the chair scraping against the floor. Not here. Not with them upstairs. We moved to my home office, the small room feeling even smaller once I closed the door. Jessica paced to the window, her back to me. I waited, my pulse hammering in my ears. It was supposed to be simple, she said finally, her voice barely above a whisper. We were trying for a baby. You remember how long it took? I did. 2 years of negative pregnancy tests before Emma. I went to a fertility specialist, Dr. Raymond Kelly, up in Cleveland. You were traveling so much for work and I didn't want to stress you out with appointments that might not lead anywhere. She turned to face me, mascara smudged under her eyes. He said I had some issues with my eggs, that we could try IVF, but the success rate would be low with my own eggs. My stomach tightened. What did you do? He suggested using a donor egg, said it would triple our chances. Your sperm, donor egg, carried by me. You'd still be the biological father. Her voice cracked. I thought you'd never have to know. That it wouldn't matter because I'd carry her, give birth to her, raise her as ours. The room tilted slightly. Emma. My daughter, genetically mine, but not Jessica's. You didn't think I had a right to know? The words came out harder than I intended. I was scared you'd say no, that you'd insist we keep trying naturally, or that you'd want to adopt instead, or... She pressed her palms against her eyes. I was 34 and terrified I was running out of time. Dr. Kelly made it sound so routine, so normal. He said lots of couples do it and never tell anyone. I sat down heavily in my desk chair. And Noah? Her face crumpled. That's where it gets worse. Worse. How could it possibly get worse? After Emma, I thought we were done. But you wanted a second child and I couldn't exactly tell you why that might be complicated. She wrapped her arms around herself. So I went back to Dr. Kelly. But this time he said the issue was different. That my body had developed antibodies or something that would attack embryos with your genetic material specifically. Some rare immune response. That's not, I started, but she cut me off. I know how it sounds. But he showed me charts, medical studies. He said we could do immune therapy, but it was experimental and expensive and might not work. Or we could use donor sperm with my egg, and I'd carry the baby just like with Emma. The pieces clicked into place with sickening clarity. Noah. Jessica's biological son, but not mine. So you did it, I said flatly. You used someone else's sperm. I thought... Her voice broke. I thought I was giving you what you wanted. A son. A sibling for Emma. A family. By lying to me, twice. I was going to tell you. The words tumbled out desperately. So many times I almost did. But years passed, and they were ours, Tyler. We raised them together. I gave birth to them both. You cut their umbilical cords. You stayed up with them when they were sick. You taught Emma to ride a bike and Noah to throw a baseball. How could I destroy all of that? I stood, needing distance from her. Uncle Robert knew. She froze. What? He changed his will 6 months ago to require DNA testing. He knew something was off. Jessica's face went white. I never told him. I swear. I never... Then how? She sank into the other chair, her head in her hands. Last Christmas. He was visiting, and Noah had that bad flu, remember? Robert drove me to the urgent care clinic because you were stuck at that conference call. We were sitting in the waiting room, and he was looking at Noah, really studying him. Then he asked me point blank if there was anything I needed to tell you. And? I denied it. But he just looked at me with this sad expression and said, Jessica, honey, that boy doesn't have a single Bennett feature, not one. Then he asked about Emma, whether I'd noticed she looked nothing like me. Her shoulders shook. He didn't push it, just said that secrets have a way of coming out, and it was better if they came from the right person. I leaned against the desk, my legs unsteady. So he set up the inheritance as a bomb, to force the truth out. I didn't know he was sick. I didn't know he'd die so soon. She looked up at me, tears streaming. Tyler, please. I know I should have told you. I know I stole your choice, but I love those kids and I love you, and I thought. You thought what? That you could just keep lying forever? My voice rose despite my attempt to control it. Do you have any idea what this means? Emma's going to find out her mother isn't her biological mother. Noah's going to find out I'm not his biological father. How do we explain that? We don't have to tell them. The DNA test was just for the inheritance. We can keep it between us. I stared at her, genuinely shocked. You want to keep lying? Even now? I want to protect our children from being devastated by information they don't need to know. They have a right to know their genetic history, medical history. Emma needs to know about her biological mother's health background, and Noah needs to know about his biological father's. Jessica flinched. I don't know who they are. The donors were anonymous. Through Dr. Kelly's clinic? Yes, the Kelly Fertility Center in Cleveland. I pulled out my phone and started typing notes. Jessica watched me with growing alarm. What are you doing? Documenting. I need records from that clinic. Consent forms, donor information, everything. Tyler, please, did you sign anything saying I consented to these procedures? Her silence was answer enough. Jessica, did you forge my signature on consent forms? Dr. Kelly said it would be fine. That lots of wives sign for their husbands when they're traveling for work. My hands clenched around the phone. That's fraud. Medical fraud. It was 15 years ago for Emma, 10 years ago for Noah. Does it really matter now? Yes, it matters. I struggled to keep my voice down, aware of the kids upstairs. It matters that you made decisions about creating human beings without my knowledge. It matters that you've been lying to me for over a decade. It matters that our children's entire genetic identity is based on deception. She stood, reaching for me. Tyler, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. But we can get through this. We can go to counseling. I stepped back. I need you to leave. What? Not permanently, just tonight. I need space to think, and I can't do that with you here. The kids will ask questions. Tell them you're staying at your sister's. Tell them whatever you want. You're good at lying. The words hit her like a slap. Fresh tears spilled down her cheeks, but I felt nothing. Just a hollow numbness spreading through my chest. Tomorrow, I said, you're going to get me every piece of documentation you have from that clinic. Every form, every receipt, every communication with Dr. Kelly. And then we're going to figure out what happens next. Tyler, go, Jessica. Please just go. She left the office, and I heard her moving around upstairs, probably packing a bag. Emma called out asking where she was going, and Jessica's muffled response filtered down. Something about Aunt Diane having a problem with her furnace. The front door closed 20 minutes later. I sat alone in my office, staring at the DNA results still pulled up on my laptop screen. 2 children I'd raised as mine. One genetically mine, but not Jessica's. One genetically Jessica's, but not mine. Both created through deception. My phone buzzed. A text from Patricia Wolf. Have you spoken with her? Yes, I typed back. Fertility clinic. Donor egg for Emma, donor sperm for Noah. She never told me. 3 dots appeared, disappeared, appeared again. Finally, I'm sorry, Tyler. Do you need referrals for family law attorneys? I stared at the question. Did I? Was this marriage over? Could I ever trust Jessica again after this? Another text from Patricia. Also, you should know, estate can't be distributed until paternity questions are resolved. Jessica's attorney is pushing hard for immediate distribution. She doesn't know yet that the DNA results complicate everything. I thought about the $3.2 million inheritance, about Jessica's eagerness to get it processed quickly, about her hiring an attorney before the results even came back. When will she find out? I asked. Officially? When probate court reviews the DNA results next week. But you could tell her sooner. I could. But something made me hesitate. Some instinct that there were more layers to this than Jessica had admitted. She'd lied about the most fundamental aspects of our children's existence. What else might she be lying about? I'll wait, I typed. Let the court process play out. I set the phone down and opened my laptop, searching for the Kelly Fertility Center. The website looked professional enough, though I noticed it had been recently redesigned. I clicked through to Dr. Raymond Kelly's bio. The page loaded, and my blood ran cold. Dr. Raymond Kelly's medical license had been revoked 3 years ago following an investigation into unauthorized use of his own genetic material in fertility treatments. His own genetic material. I grabbed my phone with shaking hands and pulled up the photos I'd taken of the DNA results. Stared at the genetic markers listed for Emma's unknown biological mother. For Noah's unknown biological father. Then I started searching for everything I could find about Dr. Raymond Kelly's fertility fraud case. The attorney's office felt smaller on my second visit. Patricia Wolf had called me back to Scottsdale 3 days after I discovered Dr. Kelly's medical license revocation. I'd spent those 72 hours in a fog, sleeping in my home office, avoiding Jessica except for terse exchanges about the kids' schedules. "We have a problem," Patricia said as I sat down. She slid a folder across her desk. The estate's genealogy consultant ran extended DNA analysis. Standard procedure when there's questions about biological relationships. I opened the folder. More charts, more percentages, more proof that my life was a fabrication. Emma and Noah share approximately 25% of their DNA, Patricia said. That's consistent with half-siblings who share one biological parent. The air conditioning hummed. I stared at the numbers. Which parent? My voice sounded distant. That's what we need to determine. But there's something else. She pulled out another document. We cross-referenced their profiles against public DNA databases. Noah's paternal markers match a cluster of individuals in the Cleveland area. 43 matches, to be exact. All half-siblings through the paternal line. My stomach dropped. Dr. Kelly. Almost certainly. The maternal side for Emma shows a similar pattern. 37 half-sibling matches. Different cluster, same geographic area, same time period. Patricia's expression was carefully neutral. Mr. Bennett, I think Dr. Kelly used his own genetic material for both procedures. His sperm for Noah and his wife's eggs for Emma. The words tasted like ash. Or his sisters, someone related to him. We're working on identifying the maternal donor. Several of Emma's matches have family trees that point to a woman named Barbara Kelly. Dr. Kelly's wife, deceased 2019. I sat back. The room tilted slightly. So neither of my children are biologically mine or Jessica's. Emma shares your DNA. You are her biological father. Through a procedure I never consented to, using another woman's egg without my knowledge. I rubbed my face. And Noah isn't mine at all. Patricia waited. She'd probably seen this reaction before, in other inheritance cases that went sideways. There's more, she said quietly. We pulled Dr. Kelly's clinic records through a court order. Jessica visited his practice 8 times over a 14-month period. January 2009 through February 2010. The procedures were coded as fertility consultation and intrauterine insemination. She went alone? Every visit. The consent forms have your signature, but Patricia slid photocopies across the desk. Look at the dates. I scanned the documents. My signature appeared on forms dated January 15th, 2009 and November 3rd, 2009. I was in Singapore both those weeks. Company sent me to consult on a manufacturing facility. I could picture the hotel, the humid air, The time zone confusion. I have the travel records. That's what I thought you'd say. Patricia made a note. Forgery, then. We'll need those travel records for the legal proceedings. What legal proceedings? The estate is filing a formal challenge. Robert's will specified that assets go to blood relatives. If neither child qualifies as Jessica's biological offspring, she has no claim to the inheritance. Patricia's tone was matter-of-fact, like she was discussing property taxes. Additionally, you have grounds for fraud, both against Jessica and Dr. Kelly's estate. The clinic closed in 2020, but there are assets. I thought about Emma and Noah, sitting at the kitchen table this morning eating cereal, arguing about whose turn it was to load the dishwasher. They had no idea their entire existence was built on lies and medical fraud. I need to tell them something, I said. They know about the DNA tests. Emma keeps asking when we get the inheritance money. I'd recommend waiting until we have complete answers. Patricia closed the folder. We're trying to locate other victims of Dr. Kelly's fraud. There's a class action lawsuit forming. You and your family would qualify to join. Jessica, too? That depends on what she knew and when she knew it. Patricia's gaze was direct. Did she know Dr. Kelly was using his own genetic material? Or did she think she was getting legitimate donor procedures? I'd asked myself that question 100 times since finding the license revocation. Jessica's face when I'd confronted her about the fertility treatments. She'd looked shocked that I knew, but not shocked by what had happened. Like she'd been caught, not betrayed. I don't know, I said finally. You need to find out, because if she was complicit, that changes everything. Fraud, conspiracy, potentially criminal charges. Patricia leaned forward. And it affects custody, Mr. Bennett. If she knowingly participated in using another woman's eggs and forged your consent, that's not someone the court looks favorably on. The word custody hit like a physical blow. I hadn't let myself think that far ahead. Emma's mine biologically, I said slowly. But Noah has no biological connection to you. In a divorce proceeding, that matters. Patricia's voice was gentle but firm. I'm not a family law attorney, but I can refer you to someone excellent. You need to protect yourself and your daughter. Your daughter. Singular. I drove back to the airport in a rental car, Patricia's referral card in my pocket. The attorney's name was Douglas Palmer, family law specialist, offices in Columbus. I'd called from the parking lot and scheduled a consultation for tomorrow afternoon. The flight home gave me 3 hours to think. I spent most of it staring at my phone, scrolling through photos. Emma's 13th birthday last month, chocolate cake, and new headphones. Noah's soccer game 2 weeks ago, grass stains on his knees. Jessica in the background of most shots, smiling, normal, like she hadn't built our entire family on fraud and forgery. I had screenshots now, lots of them. The DNA results, the clinic records, the forged consent forms, the medical license revocation. I'd organized them into folders on my phone. Evidence DNA, evidence fraud, evidence timeline. Each folder was a nail in the coffin of my marriage. The plane landed at 9 p.m. I'd texted Jessica that I'd be late, work emergency. She'd responded with a thumbs-up emoji. The house was quiet when I got home. Kitchen light on, dishes in the sink. I could hear the TV upstairs, some show Jessica liked about house renovations. Normal sounds of a normal evening in a normal family. I set my bag down and pulled out my laptop. Douglas Palmer had sent an intake questionnaire, standard divorce preliminary information. I'd filled most of it out on the plane. Grounds for divorce, fraud, forgery of legal documents, adultery, contested. That last one was tricky. Jessica hadn't technically cheated, but she'd used another man's sperm to conceive a child she'd passed off as mine. Some states considered that adultery. Ohio's laws were murky. Assets, house, joint. Savings, joint. Retirement accounts, separate. Pending inheritance, contested. Children, Emma Bennett, 13, biological daughter of petitioner. Noah Bennett, 10, no biological relation to petitioner. Typing that made my hands shake. I saved the document and closed the laptop. Upstairs, Jessica was in bed with her iPad, some home design blog lighting up her face. She looked up when I came in. How was the trip? Fine. I started undressing, back to her. Patricia had some questions about the estate. What kind of questions? Technical stuff. DNA analysis. I pulled on a t-shirt. They're still processing everything. Jessica was quiet. I could feel her watching me. Tyler, I know you're angry. I'm meeting with a divorce attorney tomorrow. The words came out flat, rehearsed. I'd practiced them on the plane. Douglas Palmer, Columbus office, 2 p.m. The iPad screen went dark. The room was very quiet. You're divorcing me. Not a question. You forged my signature on medical consent forms. You used another woman's egg and another man's sperm without my knowledge. You lied for 13 years. I turned around. What did you think would happen? Jessica's face was pale. I was trying to give us a family. You were trying to get your uncle's inheritance. The anger felt good, clean, cutting through the numbness. That's what this was about, wasn't it? He wanted grandnieces and nephews, blood relatives, so you manufactured some. That's not... Dr. Kelly used his own sperm for Noah. Did you know that? I watched her face. His wife's eggs for Emma. There are dozens of other kids, Jessica. Dozens of families who thought they were getting anonymous donors. Her mouth opened, closed. I didn't know. When did you find out? She stopped. Recently. How recently? When Uncle Robert changed his will. 6 months ago. Jessica's voice was barely audible. His attorney contacted me, said there would be DNA testing. I called the clinic, but it was closed. I found articles about Dr. Kelly online, the license revocation, the investigation. And you didn't tell me. I thought maybe the test wouldn't show anything. Maybe he'd used real donors for us. She was crying now. I didn't know for sure until you showed me the results. I believed her. God help me. I believed that she hadn't known about Kelly's fraud until recently. But it didn't change the rest of it. You still forged my signature. You still lied about the fertility treatments. I grabbed my pillow from the bed. I'm sleeping in the office. Don't talk to the kids about any of this. We'll tell them together when I'm ready. Tyler. I closed the door on whatever she was going to say. The home office couch was uncomfortable, but I'd gotten used to it over the past few days. I lay in the dark, listening to the house settle, and pulled up the folders on my phone. Tomorrow I'd meet with Douglas Palmer. Start the divorce proceedings. Figure out custody arrangements for a daughter who was biologically mine and a son who wasn't. But tonight, I had work to do. I opened LinkedIn for the first time in weeks. I stared at the LinkedIn app on my phone, the blue icon suddenly feeling like a portal to another dimension. 4 weeks since my world imploded, and I'd avoided social media entirely. But something Patricia said during our last meeting kept nagging at me. Check everything, Tyler. Financial records, social media, emails if you can access them. People leave trails. Jessica's laptop sat in the home office. She'd moved out 3 days ago, taken a corporate apartment downtown while the divorce proceedings crawled forward. The house felt hollow without her presence, though I wasn't sure if that was loss or relief. I found myself walking to the office, phone still in hand. Her laptop was password protected, but I knew the code, Emma's birthday followed by Noah's. She'd never changed it in 15 years. The screen flickered to life. Her Gmail was already logged in. I felt a momentary pang of guilt, then remembered the forged signatures, the lies, the children who weren't genetically ours. The guilt evaporated. I opened her browser history first. LinkedIn dominated the recent activity, dozens of visits per day. That seemed odd for someone who worked in pharmaceutical sales. Her job required face-to-face meetings, not digital networking. I navigated to LinkedIn and found her profile still active. The professional headshot smiled back at me, the woman I'd thought I knew. 32 connections in the past month alone. I started scrolling through her recent activity. The likes appeared innocuous at first. Industry articles about pharmaceutical trends, sales strategies, healthcare policy. Then I noticed the pattern. A profile named Derek Paulson appeared repeatedly. Senior account executive at MedTech Solutions. His posts were frequent, sometimes 3 or 4 per day. Jessica had liked every single one from the past 6 weeks. Wrapping up another late-night brainstorming session. Innovation doesn't keep business hours. Posted at 11:47 p.m. on a Tuesday. Jessica had liked it at 11:52 p.m. I checked my calendar. That Tuesday, she'd texted me saying she was at a client dinner that ran long. Got home after I was asleep. My mouth went dry. I scrolled further. More posts from Derek, more likes from Jessica. But it was the endorsements that made my stomach drop. Jessica had endorsed Derek for strategic planning, market analysis, client relations, and negotiation. Standard enough. But Derek had endorsed Jessica for skills I'd never heard her mention: data visualization, advanced Excel, presentation design, project management software. When had she learned advanced Excel? She'd asked me to help her with basic spreadsheets just 6 months ago. I clicked on Derek's profile. 34 years old, MBA from Northwestern, based in Columbus. His experience section listed a previous role at Pinnacle Pharmaceuticals, Jessica's company. They'd overlapped there for 2 years before Derek moved to MedTech Solutions. That was 4 years ago, around the time Noah was conceived. The timeline hit me like a freight train. I grabbed my phone and started taking screenshots. Every post, every like, every endorsement. The timestamps told a story Jessica's mouth never had. Office happy hours she'd claimed to skip. Derek posted photos from those same events. Jessica visible in the background of 3. A team-building retreat she'd mentioned once in passing. Derek's album showed them at a ropes course, Jessica's hand on his shoulder in one shot, both laughing. My hands shook as I scrolled back further. Months and months of activity. The pattern was undeniable. Late-night posts, immediate likes, professional endorsements that made no sense unless they'd worked closely together. Very closely. I opened a new tab and searched Derek Paulson MedTech Solutions. His company website showed him as a senior executive in their Columbus office, a 20-minute drive from our house. The voice memo app on my phone was already recording. I'd started it the moment I opened her laptop, Patricia's advice echoing in my head. Document everything. I clicked on Jessica's messages. LinkedIn's messaging system loaded slowly, my heart hammering against my ribs. The conversation with Derek went back 18 months. Hundreds of messages. Missing you already. Tonight was perfect. Can't stop thinking about last week. When can we do that again? He's traveling again next month. 3 days in Denver. She was talking about me. I scrolled to the oldest messages, my vision tunneling. The first exchange was from 2 years ago. Great seeing you at the conference. Let's grab coffee sometime and catch up. Innocent enough. Then 3 weeks later, coffee was amazing. Dinner next time? Then a month after that. Last night can't happen again. I'm married. I'm married too, but I can't stop thinking about you. The messages blurred together. Lunch meetings that became afternoon hotel visits. Business trips that aligned too perfectly. A relationship that had been running parallel to our marriage for 2 full years. 2 years. I took screenshots of everything, my phone's storage filling rapidly. The voice memo kept recording, capturing the sound of my breathing, the click of the trackpad, the occasional curse word that slipped out. Then I found the message that made everything click into place. Told Tyler I was at a client dinner. Have the room until midnight. The timestamp. The night she came home late smelling like hotel soap. She'd claimed the restaurant had a bathroom emergency and she'd cleaned up there. I'd believed her. I checked the date against my calendar. I'd been home with Emma and Noah, helping with homework, making dinner, being a father to children who weren't genetically mine while their mother was. The front door opened. I froze. Jessica wasn't supposed to be here. We'd agreed on a schedule for picking up belongings. Tyler? Her voice carried from the entryway. Your car's here. We need to talk about the mediation next week. I looked at the laptop screen, at the messages still displayed, at my phone recording everything. She appeared in the office doorway, still in her work clothes. Her eyes went immediately to the laptop, to the LinkedIn messages visible on the screen. The color drained from her face. What are you doing? Her voice came out barely above a whisper. I turned the laptop toward her slightly, making sure the screen was clearly visible. Learning advanced Excel, apparently, and data visualization. When were you planning to teach me those skills? She stepped back. Tyler, I can explain the way you explained the fertility fraud, the forged signatures. I gestured at the screen. 2 years, Jessica. You've been sleeping with Derek Paulson for 2 years. It wasn't. She stumbled over the words. I picked up my phone, stopped the voice memo, and opened my photos. Started scrolling through the screenshots. Late-night brainstorming sessions. Office happy hours you told me you skipped. That team-building retreat where you said spouses weren't invited. You're spying on me? The audacity made me laugh. A sharp, bitter sound. You forged my signature to use another man's sperm to conceive Noah. You used another woman's egg without telling me. And you're upset about me checking LinkedIn? She moved toward the laptop. I closed it. Is he Noah's father? The question came out steadier than I felt. Jessica's face crumpled. No, God no. Derek and I didn't start until after Noah was born. So, just regular adultery then, not fertility fraud adultery. I stood up, putting the desk between us. That's supposed to make it better? Tyler, please. How many people know? I cut her off. How many of your colleagues have watched you like his posts at midnight? How many saw you together at those happy hours and knew exactly what was happening? She didn't answer. I pulled up LinkedIn on my phone, navigating to my own profile. I hadn't updated it in 3 years. The profile picture showed Jessica and me at a company event, both smiling. I clicked edit on my headline. Deleted, engineering consultant senior project manager. Typed, divorcing wife who committed fertility fraud and adultery with colleague Derek Paulson of MedTech Solutions. Jessica's eyes widened. You can't. I hit save. Then I started tagging. Her professional network, her colleagues, her boss, Derek Paulson. Tyler, stop. You'll ruin my career. Your career? I looked up at her. You ruined our family. My phone started buzzing immediately. Notifications flooding in. The barrage of notifications from LinkedIn started around 2 in the afternoon. My phone wouldn't stop buzzing. I'd posted the truth at 11:47 a.m., right after walking out of the house with 2 suitcases and Emma's hand in mine. The post was simple, direct, and tagged everyone who needed to see it. Jessica's entire professional network, her company's leadership team, Derek Paulson, and about 200 mutual connections. After 15 years of marriage, I've discovered my wife, Jessica Bennett, engaged in fertility fraud without my consent, and has been conducting a 2-year affair with colleague Derek Paulson. The DNA testing required for my late uncle's estate revealed our daughter is biologically mine but not hers, and our son is biologically hers but not mine. Dr. Raymond Kelly's fertility clinic used donor genetic material without proper disclosure or consent. I'm currently pursuing legal action on multiple fronts. To those who knew and said nothing, your silence enabled this betrayal. I'd attached the DNA results, redacting only the children's names. Then I'd updated my profile headline from Senior Engineering Consultant at Whitman Solutions to Navigating Divorce Proceedings After Discovering Fertility Fraud and Infidelity. The reactions came fast. Shocked faces, comments expressing disbelief, private messages asking if my account had been hacked. Then the shares started, and the whole thing went viral within Jessica's industry. My phone rang. Patricia Wolf. Tyler, I'm assuming you've seen the news about Kelly? I pulled into the parking lot of the extended stay hotel I'd booked. Emma was asleep in the passenger seat, exhausted from crying. What news? The FBI arrested him this morning. 12 other families have come forward with similar claims. It's a federal investigation now. Wire fraud, mail fraud, conspiracy. They're estimating he fathered at least 40 children through his clinic over 15 years. My hands tightened on the steering wheel. 40. The arrest warrant mentions your case specifically. The DNA evidence you provided helped establish the pattern. They want to interview you. When? Tomorrow, if possible. They're moving fast before anyone can destroy evidence. I looked at Emma, her face pressed against the window, mascara-stained cheeks. I'll be there. One more thing. Jessica's attorney called my office an hour ago. She wants to negotiate. Negotiate what? She committed fraud. She cheated. There's nothing to negotiate. Patricia's voice stayed calm. She's claiming the fertility treatments were medically necessary and that you were aware of the general procedures, even if not the specific details. She's also arguing that your LinkedIn post constitutes defamation and professional sabotage. I laughed, sharp and bitter. She's threatening to sue me for telling the truth? I'm telling you what her attorney said. My advice is to ignore it. You have documentation for everything you posted. Truth is an absolute defense to defamation. But Tyler, I need to ask, was this strategic or were you just angry? Both. Fair enough. Just be prepared for her to come back hard. She's cornered now, and cornered people do desperate things. After we hung up, I carried Emma inside. The hotel room smelled like industrial cleaning solution and old carpet. 2 double beds, a microwave, a mini fridge. This was home now. Emma woke up as I set her down. Dad? Yes, sweetheart? Is Mom going to be okay? The question gutted me. Even after everything Jessica had done, Emma still worried about her. Because Jessica was the only mother she'd ever known, even if they didn't share DNA. Your mom made some choices that hurt a lot of people. She's going to have to deal with the consequences. But you put it on the internet. Everyone's going to know. Everyone deserves to know the truth. What about me and Noah? Everyone's going to know about us too. I sat on the edge of her bed. I redacted your names. Most people won't know it's you unless someone tells them directly. Kids at school have parents who work with Mom. They're going to figure it out. She was right. I'd been so focused on exposing Jessica that I hadn't fully considered how the fallout would hit the kids. But what was the alternative? Let Jessica control the narrative? Let her play the victim while I looked like the bad guy? I'm sorry, I said. I know this is hard. But I couldn't let her keep lying. Emma turned away, facing the wall. I want to go home. This is home for now. I want my real home, with my room and my stuff. We'll get your stuff, I promise. But she was already crying again, and I had no words that would make this better. The next morning, I met with 2 FBI agents in a conference room downtown. Special Agent Lisa Brennan and Special Agent Keith Voss. They had the DNA results, the fertility clinic records I'd subpoenaed, and a thick file labeled Kelly Raymond, Fertility Fraud Investigation. "We appreciate you coming in," Brennan said. She was maybe 40, dark suit, wedding ring, no-nonsense demeanor. "We know this is a difficult time. Just tell me what you need." They walked me through the timeline. When had I first visited the clinic? What had Dr. Kelly told us? Had Jessica ever mentioned using donor materials? Did I sign any consent forms? I answered everything methodically, pulling up emails and appointment records on my laptop. The fertility treatments had started 8 years ago, after Jessica claimed she was having trouble conceiving naturally. Dr. Kelly had recommended IVF with optimized genetic selection. I'd assumed that meant they were selecting the healthiest embryos from our combined genetic material. I'd never signed anything authorizing donor eggs or sperm. "Did your wife sign authorization forms?" Voss asked. "I don't know. I never saw any paperwork that mentioned donors." Brennan made a note. "We're subpoenaing all of Dr. Kelly's records, but his clinic had a fire 2 weeks ago. Convenient timing." "How much was destroyed?" "Most of the physical files, but we have backup servers, email records, financial transactions. We'll piece it together." "What about Jessica? Is she being investigated?" Brennan exchanged a look with Voss. "We're looking at everyone who had knowledge of Dr. Kelly's practices. If your wife knew he was using his own genetic material and didn't disclose it to you, that could constitute conspiracy to commit fraud." "She had to know. Her uncle Robert knew enough to require DNA testing in his will. He changed it 6 months before he died. Jessica must have told him something." "We'll be interviewing her," Voss said, "and we'll need to talk to your children at some point, with appropriate counseling support." My stomach dropped. "They're 13 and 10. They've been through enough. We'll make it as gentle as possible, but they're material witnesses to the impact of this fraud. Their testimony matters." After the interview, I sat in my car and checked my phone. 73 new LinkedIn notifications. My post had been shared over 400 times. Jessica's company had issued a statement saying they were investigating the matter internally. Derek Paulson's profile had been deactivated. Then I saw the email from Whitman Solutions HR. "Tyler, we need to discuss your recent social media activity and its impact on the company's professional reputation. Please schedule a meeting with me at your earliest convenience. Brenda Yates, VP Human Resources." I called my own attorney, Gordon Fisher, who I'd retained specifically for the divorce. He picked up on the second ring. "They're going to try to fire you," he said after I read him the email. "Claim you violated social media policies or brought disrepute to the company." I didn't mention the company. I didn't post during work hours. I used my personal account. Doesn't matter. They're worried about association. You're about to be in the news and not in a good way. So what do? Go to the meeting. Record it if Ohio's a one-party consent state. Don't volunteer anything. If they terminate you, we'll sue for wrongful termination. You've got a solid case that you were acting as a whistleblower on fraud. I wasn't blowing the whistle on Whitman. I was exposing my wife. The fertility fraud is a federal crime. You cooperated with an FBI investigation. That's protected activity under whistleblower statutes. We'll make it work. After we hung up, I checked my bank accounts. Jessica had drained our joint savings. $47,000 gone. She'd also maxed out 2 of our joint credit cards. Another $35,000 in charges, all from the past 24 hours. I called the banks, froze the accounts, reported the unauthorized charges. But the savings account was joint property. Legally, she had every right to take half. She'd just taken it all instead. My phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. "You just destroyed my entire career. I hope you're happy. I hope it was worth it. You'll never see Noah again." I stared at the message. Then I screenshotted it and forwarded it to Gordon and Patricia. Within minutes, Patricia called back. That's parental alienation and a direct threat to custody rights. I'm filing an emergency motion first thing tomorrow morning. We're going to get temporary custody of both children based on her instability and financial misconduct. She took everything from the savings account. I saw the transaction alerts. You added me as a contact, remember? That's dissipation of marital assets. The judge is going to crucify her for this. Good. Tyler, I mean it. Between the fertility fraud, the affair, the financial misconduct, and now threatening to withhold Noah from you? We're going to win this, decisively. What about the inheritance? Robert's estate? Still in probate, but given the circumstances, the fraud, the fact that Emma is biologically yours and Robert was Jessica's uncle, I think we can make a strong argument that the inheritance should go to Emma exclusively, with you as trustee. Jessica shouldn't benefit from her own fraudulent conduct. $3.2 million. Plus the house, the investments, everything. We're going to make sure you and Emma are protected. I looked at the hotel room where Emma was watching TV with the sound off, her eyes red and hollow. This was protection? This was winning? But what choice did I have? Jessica had made her moves. Now I was making mine. And I wasn't done yet. 3 years later, I stood in the kitchen of our new house, a modest 3-bedroom in a quiet neighborhood 40 minutes from our old life. Emma was upstairs getting ready for her junior year of high school. The DNA test results that had detonated everything were filed away in a box in the attic, gathering dust alongside the divorce decree and the settlement papers. The FBI's investigation had concluded 18 months ago. Dr. Raymond Kelly died in federal prison of a heart attack before his trial ended, leaving 43 families and counting to pick up the pieces. The class action lawsuit against his estate had been settled for pennies on the dollar. The clinic's malpractice insurance covered some of it, but most of his assets had been hidden in offshore accounts that investigators never fully traced. Jessica lost her job 3 days after my LinkedIn post went viral. Derek Paulson's wife divorced him. The professional fallout was swift and merciless, exactly as I'd intended when I hit that post button in a moment of white-hot rage. I'd lost my job too, eventually. Whitman Solutions claimed budget cuts, but the severance package they offered, 6 months' salary and continued health insurance, suggested they knew a wrongful termination lawsuit was coming and wanted to avoid it. I took the money and started consulting independently. The work was steadier than I'd expected. The inheritance never materialized the way we'd imagined. Robert's estate was tied up in probate for 2 years, while courts sorted through the genetic mess. In the end, Emma received a trust fund of $1.4 million, accessible when she turned 25. The rest went to distant cousins who could prove direct blood relation to Robert. Jessica got nothing. The divorce was finalized 14 months after I'd discovered the truth. I got primary custody of Emma. Jessica got supervised visitation with Noah every other weekend. Noah. That was the part that still kept me up at night. The boy I'd raised for 10 years, taught to ride a bike, coached in soccer, read bedtime stories to. He wasn't mine genetically, and the courts had made that distinction matter. Jessica fought hard for him, and despite everything she'd done, the judge ruled that severing the maternal bond would be more harmful than maintaining it. I had visitation rights. Every other weekend, same as Jessica had with Emma. But it wasn't the same. Noah was angry, confused, caught between 2 parents who'd imploded his world. He blamed me for the LinkedIn post, for exposing everything, for breaking up the family. Jessica had made sure of that. "You didn't have to tell everyone," he'd screamed at me during one visitation. "You could have just divorced her quietly, but you had to ruin her life." He wasn't wrong. I could have handled it differently, could have kept the details private, worked through attorneys, protected the kids from the public spectacle. But I'd been so angry, so betrayed. I'd wanted Jessica to hurt the way I was hurting, wanted everyone to know what she'd done. The cost of that revenge was my relationship with Noah. We still talked occasionally, awkward phone calls every few weeks where he gave one-word answers, and I tried to pretend we were still father and son. But the truth, the genetic truth that I'd insisted mattered so much, had created a canyon between us that I didn't know how to cross. Emma adjusted better, though better was relative. She'd been in therapy for 2 years, working through the identity crisis of learning her biological mother was a stranger named Barbara Kelly, deceased, who she'd never meet. She'd connected with some of her half-siblings through the DNA database, other children of Dr. Kelly's fraud, scattered across 3 states. That seemed to help more than the therapy. She didn't talk to Jessica anymore. That was Emma's choice, not mine. After Jessica sent her a series of emails blaming me for everything, calling me manipulative and vindictive, Emma had blocked her on everything and refused visitation. The court couldn't force a 16-year-old to maintain a relationship she didn't want. So Jessica had lost both children in different ways. Emma by choice, Noah by custody arrangement and geography. Jessica had moved to Atlanta for a new job, making regular visits difficult. I'd won, by most measures. Custody of my biological daughter. The moral high ground. Public vindication. But sitting in my kitchen at 6 in the morning, drinking coffee in a house that was too quiet, I wondered what exactly I'd won. The LinkedIn post was still up. I'd never deleted it. Occasionally, someone new would find it and share it, and the whole thing would make rounds again in pharmaceutical sales circles. Remember that guy whose wife committed fertility fraud? I'd become a cautionary tale, a viral story, a meme about betrayal and revenge. Was it worth it? I'd asked myself that question 1,000 times. The answer changed depending on the day. On good days, I believed I'd done the right thing. Exposed fraud, protected Emma, held Jessica accountable. The truth mattered. Lies, especially lies that fundamental, couldn't be allowed to stand. On bad days, I thought about Noah's face during our last visit, the way he'd looked at me like I was a stranger. Thought about Emma's nightmares, her anxiety about genetic diseases she might have inherited from people she'd never know. Thought about the collateral damage of my rage. My phone buzzed. A text from Emma. "Dad, can you drive me to school? Running late." "Be up in 2 minutes," I typed back. I rinsed my coffee cup and grabbed my keys. This was my life now. Single father, independent consultant, cautionary tale. The man who'd exposed his wife's lies on LinkedIn and watched his family disintegrate in real time. Emma came downstairs in jeans and a hoodie, backpack slung over one shoulder. She'd grown 3 inches in the past year, was nearly as tall as me now. Sometimes I looked at her and saw myself. Sometimes I saw a stranger. "You okay?" I asked as we got in the car. "Yeah, just tired." We drove in comfortable silence. The morning was cool, early autumn turning the leaves gold and red. Emma stared out the window, earbuds in. I thought about what Patricia had told me during our last meeting, when we'd finally closed out Robert's estate. "You did what you thought was right," she'd said. "That's all anyone can do." But was it right? Or had I just been hurt and angry and looking for someone to blame? The truth, the real truth, not the genetic truth or the legal truth, was more complicated than the LinkedIn post had made it seem. Jessica had lied, yes. Committed fraud, yes. Betrayed me in fundamental ways, absolutely. But she'd also been desperate for a family, manipulated by a doctor who'd abused his position and caught in her own web of deception until it strangled everything. That didn't excuse what she'd done. But it added shades of gray to a story I'd painted in black and white. And I'd been so focused on being right, on winning, on making her pay, that I'd lost sight of what actually mattered. Emma and Noah, 2 kids who'd done nothing wrong but were paying the price anyway. I pulled up to Emma's school. She pulled out her earbuds. "Dad?" "Yeah?" "I'm glad you told the truth, even though it sucked. even though everything fell apart. She looked at me directly. I'd rather know who I really am than live in a lie. Something in my chest loosened. You sure about that? Most days. She smiled, small and sad. The rest of the time, I wish I could go back to being a normal kid who didn't have to think about DNA and fertility fraud and half-siblings in 3 states. But we don't get to go back, right? No, we don't. Then I guess we just keep going forward. She grabbed her backpack. See you tonight. I watched her walk into school, disappearing into a crowd of teenagers who had no idea what she'd been through. Then I drove to my first client meeting of the day, a consultation about manufacturing efficiency that felt almost absurdly normal compared to everything else. The moral of this story, if there is one, isn't simple. The truth matters. Lies corrode everything they touch, and secrets have a way of detonating when you least expect it. Jessica's deception destroyed our family more thoroughly than my exposure of it ever could have. But revenge, even righteous revenge, comes with a cost. The LinkedIn post had felt necessary in the moment, a way to reclaim power and force accountability. But it had also been cruel, public, and permanent. It had hurt Jessica in ways that went beyond justice into vindictiveness. I'd had every right to be angry, every right to divorce her, to fight for custody, to protect myself and Emma from further deception. But did I have the right to destroy her career, to make her a public spectacle, to ensure that anyone who Googled her name would find that post first? Legally, yes. Morally, I still didn't know. What I'd learned was this: you can be right and still be wrong. You can be the victim and still cause harm. You can win every battle and still lose what matters most. If I could do it over, would I change anything? I'd still get divorced. I'd still fight for Emma. I'd still cooperate with the FBI investigation. But the LinkedIn post, the public shaming, the scorched earth approach that left no room for nuance or mercy, maybe I'd handle that differently. Maybe I'd find a way to hold Jessica accountable without burning down everything around us. Or maybe I wouldn't. Maybe in that moment of betrayal and rage, I'd make the same choice all over again. The hardest truth I'd learned was this: sometimes there are no good choices. Sometimes every option leads to pain and loss and damage that can't be undone. Sometimes you just have to choose which consequences you can live with. I'd chosen truth over peace, exposure over privacy, justice over mercy. I was still living with that choice every single day. And I'd keep living with it, for better or worse, until the day I died. That was the real inheritance Robert had left me. Not money, but the knowledge that some secrets are too toxic to keep, and some truths are too destructive to tell. The wisdom was knowing the difference. I was still learning,